For over 50 years, we have bombarded Mars with our probes and landers, spying from orbit to map the terrain, finding her strengths and weaknesses. On the surface, probing for her resources and learning of her defenses. The next generation of robots are readying to establish the beachhead. The time is approaching for the full-scale invasion of the planet, when humans walk on Mars and claim it for their own. The conquest of this enigmatic planet so far away has been both challenging and rewarding. ESA has delivered the latest conspirator, the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, to search out the source of methane in the atmosphere. Its landing craft, the Schiaparelli lander, failed and crashed, yet another victim of Mars's defenses. The ExoMars orbiter, now captured by Mars's gravity, has begun the challenging process of adjusting to a circular orbit without fuel. This involved using the shifting Martian atmosphere to gradually slow the satellite in a process known as aerobraking.
With ExoMars, ESA is going to use for the first time a method called aerobraking for a spacecraft in orbit around Mars to decrease the orbit by letting it fly through the atmosphere and using the atmospheric density to slow it down instead of using fuel for the engines.
We have to take a lot of margin to be sure that even if we go through a moment where the atmosphere is more dense at the altitude where we are flying, we are still safe with the spacecraft.
That aerobraking process took more than a year to complete. It was complicated by the changing nature of the Martian atmosphere.
The Trace Gas Orbiter is really looking at active processes ongoing on Mars today, and life, present life, is one of the possible explanations. So it will be really a Sherlock Holmes work to try to put together a case for whether it's geological or biological activity that is responsible for the methane.
Meanwhile, plans are well advanced for the ExoMars 2020 mission, with the final design of the rover nearing completion. And scientists have shortlisted two possible landing sites to put it to use: Oxia Planum and Morth Vallis. Both are shortlisted because they have had an abundance of water in the planet's early history, the main building block for life.
First of all, we want a landing site that is ancient, because the hypothesis is that conditions on the surface of Mars 4.3 to 3.9 billion years ago were similar to those on Earth when life started here. So the site has to be old. The second condition is we want a site where we had liquid water present over hundreds of millions of years. And we want this liquid water to be what we call low energy or slow flowing water, like on the canals in Amsterdam.
The rover then scouts around for the ideal locations and, with its driller apparatus, digs deep into the earth to extract soil samples which will be placed into its onboard chemical analysis equipment, hoping to find ancient signs of life. Beginning this year, the next wave of spacecraft begin their sojourn to the Red Planet. NASA's InSight mission, the first to be launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California for another planet, is preparing for liftoff. The vehicle had already been through its pre-flight test and had been shipped to the launch facility. It is crucial that all aspects of the lander are in perfect operational readiness. The probe is destined for the equatorial region of Mars and will look deep into the heart of the planet.
The InSight mission is a geophysical mission to Mars. It's going to go to Mars and take its vital signs. It's going to take its heartbeat, the seismic activity of the planet.
So we're going to be doing that using a seismometer, a very high precision seismometer, using techniques that have been well developed on Earth to get the understanding of the crust, mantle, and core, and sort of the relationship between those.
It's going to take its temperature by measuring the thermal gradient of the surface, which tells how much heat is coming out.
We also have a heat flow probe, we call it HP cubed. And what that does is it's going to basically take the temperature of Mars, and from that it'll be able to understand what the thermal flux is over the course of a full Martian year.
And it's going to sort of measure its reflexes by looking at how the rotation wobbles with the tidal effects of the sun.
Our final experiment is called RISE, and that's going to be looking at basically the wobble of Mars to help understand what the core size may be in composition.
InSight isn't just a Mars mission, it's really a mission to the terrestrial planet interiors.
So Mars is kind of the Goldilocks planets. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's just right. If it was too big, it would have retained a lot of activity and erased all the evidence that we're looking for. If it was too small, it never would have undergone the same processes that form the Earth, and so it's really just right.
Mars will give us this insight into early planet formation and early planetary processes.
Understanding the details of the structure of the interior of Mars will allow us to address questions of planetary formation that we've only been able to guess at before.
We are missing cold, hard data, and this is what this mission will provide.
Meanwhile, NASA, ESA, and the Russians are continuing their programs. Soon, new missions from China, Japan, India, and the United Arab Emirates will begin. Getting humans to Mars is the pressing goal of NASA and other adventurous parties. Many big aerospace corporations contractors have all been at the drawing board working out the immense engineering and logistical challenges. They all concur that to get to Mars, you need more than a big rocket. NASA's SLS and Orion spacecraft are only two of many components that will be needed. With some more political emphasis, NASA, in concert with other agencies including ESA, Canada and the Russian space agencies, are able to push ahead with the Gateway Facility concept. Effectively building a space station in cislunar orbit between the Moon and Earth, it would be a staging post for a return to the Moon, the gathering of resources from the lunar surface, and an assembly point for a Mars flight and beyond. Orbital ATK is one of 6 companies selected for NASA's Next Step 2 program, a public-private partnership for commercial development of deep space exploration. Not the first to suggest the Moon be a staging post, Orbital ATK recommends a parking orbit in cislunar space built from its successful Cygnus cargo craft. First, they will launch an initial habitat module aboard NASA's heavy-lift SLS rocket with a crewed Orion capsule. Placed in a parking orbit, it will act as a platform for experiments and serve as a destination for future crewed missions. By 2025, additional modules would be added to the habitat, allowing deliveries of crew supplies and experiments, and serve as a waste disposal vehicle at the end of their missions. The modularity of the system also allows for multiple visiting vehicles, providing a base for lunar sorties. Mining for resources, in particular water, would allow for more cost-effective and longer duration missions to Mars. From water you gain hydrogen for fuel, oxygen as the oxidizer, and for breathing, and of course, drinking water.
We have places on Moon which are, at least especially at the South Pole, which has permanent darkness, where we can find water, and we know from some missions that there is water. Water is a good source to produce hydrogen and oxygen. And also to go into the shadow of the Moon, we will have places where we don't have the radiation coming from the Earth. So building a telescope over there by using the material we find on the Moon, so not bringing all the stuff from the Earth, that could also open new possibilities to look deep into our universe.
These crewed missions would also help with man's understanding of how we can best survive long-duration space exploration. By 2030, with additional modules, the habitat could be expanded to provide a Mars transit capability for demonstration expeditions lasting 1,000 days or more. Boeing, the primary contractor for the SLS rocket system, believe their plan will require 5 or 6 SLS launches to be able to get to Mars.
So we want to make sure that we've checked everything out and that we know that it's good to go before we actually leave for Mars. Because once we leave, we can't come back for over 2 years. And the reason for this is because it's the alignment of the planets. The way the planets revolve around the sun, it allows a window of opportunity to go from Earth to Mars basically every 2 years. Just to get to Mars, before you even land or anything, is going to take 7 or 8 months. The reality is you're going to be there for a year, waiting until that window opens up to come back. And then it's going to take 7 or 8 months to come home.
Having a cislunar outpost enables international partnerships and commercial opportunities, such as exploration of the lunar surface and scientific and technological research. After cislunar space, we'll start the actual missions to Mars. The first mission will be to Mars orbit. This mission will teach us about the space systems that will take us to Mars and back. The next mission will send humans to the surface of Mars. The crews will undertake detailed scientific research and investigation. They will start to unlock the secrets of Mars.
Their initial concept, now under development, consists of a power and propulsion bus to provide electric power and propulsion, 2 habitat modules, an airlock module, and a logistic work module, then supplied by cargo and crewed modules from the US and Russia. And finally, it could be used as the vehicle and habitat for long-term exploration of space. Lockheed Martin's concept for transporting to Mars has resulted in a holistic view of the mission. They too will assemble the space gateway in cislunar orbit. This will provide the platform to build the Mars Space Base Camp and get it ready for flights to Mars. They see that Orion is a part of a larger system that provides the supplies and the scientific equipment needed for the journey. This resulted in what they are calling Mars Base Camp. Mars Base Camp is an orbiting mission with 4 main sections and 2 of almost everything for backup. 4 large commercial solar arrays to generate electricity to power the spacecraft, For propulsion, we have 2 cryogenic stages, one either end, and 2 tank farms to store the fuel and oxidizer. Within those stacks lie 2 habitat modules and a large central living space to eat, sleep, and exercise. Most importantly, we have Orion. It is the command deck with all the avionics, navigation, and communications. Orion makes the spacecraft more reliable and gives the astronauts a safe ride home. The orbiting crew could also investigate the 2 moons of Mars, Phobos and Deimos, deploying landers or robots for sampling, even astronauts to explore the surfaces of these moons. The main mission, however, will, after careful examination, confirm a landing site for the next mission and the first human landing. From orbit, the astronaut scientists will have access to the entire planet's surface for rovers and drones to be able to make real-time decisions about where to go and what to examine, retrieving samples from the surface for study. Lockheed Martin's concept, the almost retro rocket ship, the MEDV Lander, is their design for a reusable launch and landing vehicle and is based on the current technology, including the Orion and shuttle systems, and not as far-fetched as first thought. Reusability and innovation will conquer Mars. Keeping costs down will make it viable, and making it doable is innovation. That's something that SpaceX is founded on. Their BFR is the direct Mars transport system, from liftoff on a reusable booster, a short time parked in low Earth orbit for a fuel top-up, then direct to Mars and a 3-month cruise, then landing directly on the surface of the red planet, ready to be refueled from local resources for the return journey, landing back on Earth in the one reusable spacecraft. In the meantime, SpaceX is testing its Falcon heavy rocket system in preparation for its maiden voyage. One of the issues of flights to Mars, which is addressed in part by the BFR, is the cruise time. In theory, SpaceX has it down to 3 months. The other NASA-led systems will take 7 to 8 months, a long time to house, feed and power a crew with little to do. Getting there much faster would be a game changer. One possible way to achieve this is nuclear power. Nuclear thermal propulsion, or NTP, could enable faster transit time both to Mars and beyond. NTP is powered by nuclear fission. How it works is conceptually simple. Energy from fission is used to heat a hydrogen propellant to about 2,420 degrees Celsius. This hydrogen is then accelerated through an exhaust nozzle, resulting in a propellant efficiency roughly twice that of the best chemical rocket engines. For example, it may be possible to fuel modern NTP systems with low-enriched uranium instead of highly enriched. The physical size of an NTP engine is largely determined by the rate at which fission energy can be transferred to the hydrogen propellant, but the equivalent volume of the uranium that would be split is actually quite small, roughly that of a toy marble. Getting travelers to Mars faster, NTP can take months off the trip compared to using traditional chemical systems. This would reduce the need for payload, food and power for the crew, minimizing the risks associated with exposure to galactic cosmic radiation, microgravity, and other hazards of deep space travel. The maturation of nuclear thermal propulsion will also promote the successful development of the kilopower fission power systems for use on the Moon, Mars, and other destinations, as a main source in situ for life support, communication, industrial, and other diverse applications. Harnessing first-generation NTP systems is a first step towards advanced nuclear propulsion systems capable of travel throughout the solar system.